Right now, I'm Piyush. I'm going to be a main host today in the session. And before I proceed, I would really quickly want to know if all of you can hear me loud and clear. So if my audio is clear to you guys, please let me know if you can hear me clearly or not. So in this poll, it will be great if you can just say a yes or no. That way I'll get to know if my audio is clear to all of you or not. Okay, so I do see. Okay, decent number of votes are coming in. I would request all of you to participate in this polling so that I get to know if my audio is clear to all of you. And the more number of people participate, the better it is. That way I'm 100% sure that my audio is clear to all of you. Those of you who can't hear me or have any issues with the audio, if you can actually let me know in the chat what is the issue that you're facing, that will be great. All right. In the meantime, a warm welcome to all of you. Today we are going to discuss how to attain a Quant 51 or the perfect score in Quant. Like if you are someone who is not able to move beyond a 44, 45, 47, 48 in Quant, and you want to actually maximize your potential in Quant, in this session we are going to understand what are the reasons why people don't do as well in Quant and how can you go about improving your Quant score. So I'm going to end the poll. So I see about 80% of you are able to hear me clearly. So it seems like the rest of you who are not able to hear me, there is a high likelihood that probably there's an issue with your internet right now. So probably try rejoining the session. Sometimes that helps. Now, a quick introduction about myself. I'm Piyush Periwala. I'm going to be your main host. I'm a strategy consultant at GMATWhiz. I've taken the GMAT myself and I've scored a 740 in my very first attempt. And I have been a quant tutor, quant expert, and I have done very well in quant in most of my tests. And I'm going to take a lot of learnings from my experiences, the experiences of the students that I have worked with in the past to help you understand how can you improve your quant score today. Okay, now how have I designed this session? There are going to be 3 sections to this webinar. First session, we'll quickly talk about who we are. Basically, 2 minutes I'll take in the first section to talk about who we are, what is that we do at GMATWhiz. Then we go to section 2 where we're gonna spend about good 1.5 hours of time on the main part of the session where we're gonna help you understand what are the strategies that you should develop to improve your quant score. And finally, I'll open the session for an open-ended Q&A where I'm going to spend about 10 minutes of time to kind of answer the questions that you have. Not that you can't answer the questions in the earlier sessions, feel free to do so. But in this section, it is solely dedicated to open-ended Q&A, which may not be even related to the topic that we are discussing today. Okay, so let's get going. So very quickly about GMATWhiz. We are world's only truly personalized GMAT course. Like a lot of courses claim that use technology or AI to personalize their learning, but in reality, no one personalizes your learning as well as GMATWhiz does. And how we do that is basically based on 3 pillars at GMATWhiz. First one is every student at GMATWhiz gets a personalized study plan. So irrespective of where you are, in which part of your journey, you don't have to worry about what do I do today or tomorrow in order to improve my score. You will get a personalized study plan, which will tell you exactly what you need to do on every single day of the week so that you have clear-cut understanding of where you're headed and what you need to do in order to improve your performance. And the best part about this study plan is that it automatically takes into account the number of hours that you mentioned that you can devote to your preparation is considered while actually creating the study plan for you. And it also takes into account what stage of your preparation you are at. And the coursework itself is also dynamic. So the course that you get is having real-time improvement modules. So if you're not doing well on certain topics, you will actually get to see data platform at automatically analyzing your weaknesses and giving you additional focus on those specific areas. So you give more time to your weak areas, you give less time to your strong areas, and automatically the course customizes your performance. And you also get dedicated mentors that you can connect with every 10 to 15 days to discuss your progress throughout your journey. And we don't differentiate between our students. All GMAT students, irrespective of which package they take up, are assigned a dedicated mentor whom they can connect and understand where they're going wrong, where they're what is that they're doing correctly, and how can you improve their score further from there. So they can schedule this calls using a link which is provided to them post purchase every 10 to 15 days and get expert opinion about this. And this is one of the biggest reasons why we have been GMAT Club's most effective course when it comes to average score improvement. So if you look at data till the end of last year, our average score improvement was around 103 points, whereas some of our competitors' average score improvement you can see. Now, even today, our average score improvement is very, very close to about 99 points as we speak. So it shows the kind of impact that we have had on GMAT students across the globe. Okay, with that, let's now get into the main part of the session. So how have I designed the main part? So first, I'll start by talking about the right learning curve, because I know that many of you would be in the very early stages of your preparation also. Some people would be in the middle stages of your preparation. Some people would be retakers also. So what we'll do is we'll first talk about the right learning curve, which is applicable for people who are in the early phases of your preparation or their preparation or the middle phases of their preparation. Then we'll talk about some of the core reasons that I hear from students why they don't end up getting a Quant 50 or a 51, which is the silly mistake excuse. We'll also talk about the timing conundrum. Many people tell me that you should know what, I'm not able to do well in Quant just because I don't manage my time well. I am not able to get the questions correct in the right amount of time. So what is the solution to that problem? We'll talk about that as well. Then we will take all these things into account and actually understand how to identify the gaps in your preparation and how do you fix those gaps so that you can actually get a good score on GMAT. And we'll end up with the timing strategy for Quant, and then I'll open it up for a Q&A session. Okay, so let's get started. So what is the right learning curve? Now, when I talk to people, what generally people do is they either don't have a proper learning curve for Quant, as in they will just go about doing topics in a random fashion. They will just open up a book and just go through the topics which are presented over there, or they will try to do algebra first or number properties first, and so on. So they take up individual modules at a time. But in reality, how you should be doing Quant is that you should be working on all the basic concepts first, followed by intermediate concepts, and then followed by advanced concepts. The reason why I'm saying so is because there is a lot of interdependency that exists in Quant. Like algebra topic that you're doing might require you to be good in another topic from number properties, and that topic from number properties might require you to be good at another topic from algebra in turn. So if you're doing algebra before number properties or number properties before algebra, you might still be ending up missing out on one thing or the other. You might be proceeding to a slightly more complex thing without working on the more basic thing. So what we have done at GMATWhiz is we have created a sequence which works best for all the students. Now, in the sequence, like all the 33 topics tested on GMAT are shown on the screen. And you can see the ones which are in green are from number properties, the ones which are in blue are from algebra, the ones which are in red are from word problems, and the ones which are in black are from geometry. So how we have designed this is we have tried to think in a we have tried to reverse engineer each topic. So if you look at prime numbers, for instance, prime numbers is something which requires you to be aware of the concept of even odd numbers. So what we recommend is that you should go through even odd numbers before doing prime numbers. Similarly, in prime numbers, you'll have to do prime factorization. For that, you would need to understand the rules related to exponents also. If you don't know the rules related to exponents, you will not be able to do well on prime numbers, prime factorization basically. Similarly, it might require you to be aware of the concept of linear equations, basically how to solve equations, or it might require you to be aware of the basics of numbers, what is a natural number or a whole number as well. So ideally, all these topics are supposed to be done before primes. So the complex grid that you see on your screen, I know it looks like a very simple list of activities, 33 activities, but in reality, it's a complex grid which is designed by our experts after going through all the possible permutation combinations in which the topics need to be learned. So if you want to take a snapshot of the screen, the time would be right now to take a snapshot. So if you're just starting your preparation or you're in the middle of your preparation, then please make sure that you learn these topics in this particular order. Because if you don't learn something and you move to the more advanced topic, then it's possible that you might make mistakes in the more advanced topic, thinking that you're weak in that particular area. But in reality, the problem is not with that advanced topic. The problem is with the more basic topic. Got it? I hope this makes sense to all of you. Now, with this sequence clear, let's understand one more common mistake which people make, and that's why they actually end up struggling with the timing part or some other issues as well in the later part, which is they don't prepare for each topic in the right order, or not the right order, right steps, basically. Let's put it that way. So generally what people do is they do step one properly. Stage one or step one is how you can call it, which is learning concepts. So they will open a book, they'll search on the internet, they'll read about the concept, they'll understand all the concepts related to it. But then comes the third step directly for most of the people. They don't do the second step properly. They, after learning concepts, they just move to practicing questions on that topic. So they might just go to GMAT Club, open a set of questions from that particular topic, or just open the OG and then just do some questions from that particular topic. without realizing that they are actually missing out on a very, very important step, because of which they will end up repeating some of the mistakes that they are making in the questions that they're solving. And this makes them get stuck in the range of 600 to 650, or let's say around Quant 40 in GMAT. Now, what is the second step then? The ideal second step before you start solving questions is to actually learn a methodical approach to solve questions. Now, obviously, in Quant, there could be different methods of solving the same type of question, but you need to learn the most effective way of solving the question, and you need to make sure that after you learn that method, then only you move to the practicing part and apply this method on the questions that you practice. This is the key success to get you key to actually getting a 700 plus on GMAT or scoring a Quant 51. Okay, so some of you who are just starting your preparation or in the middle of your preparation, yet to complete your Quant prep, these two things are very important. Making sure that you go in the right sequence of studying, which I showed you on the earlier slide, and then making sure that for every topic you learn in these three stages. Okay, learn concepts, then the approach, and then practicing questions on the topic. Now, with that, let's move to this excuse. And if you use the word excuse, because when I actually speak to people who are in the score range of 45 to 49 on GMAT, the most common reason that I hear from them when I ask them why is that you're not scoring a Quant 50, the most common reason that I hear from them is, you know what, Piyush, I make a lot of silly mistakes. Now let's understand what that's in reality what the silly mistake is. Okay, so and there's no better way to actually learn this than solving a question. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give you a set of questions. Through each question, I'm going to actually generate an important lesson for you guys, which will actually help you in taking your score to the next level. So right now, there's a question on your screen, which is on algebra inequalities, basically topic of algebra. So here's a question. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to solve this question, and then we are going to solve it together and get the learning out of it. So you can actually put your answers in the polls once you're done with the question. Okay, so all the best from my side for this question. Give it a shot, and I'm going to be muted for the next 2 minutes so that you can solve it on your own. Okay, 2 minutes are over. So last 15 seconds to mark your responses. Then I'll end the poll. 10 seconds left. 5 seconds left to mark your responses. Put it on the poll right now if you want to. Okay, I'm ending the poll now. All right, guys. So as you can see, let me see the results. So around 40% of you think that B is the correct answer. 40% of you think C is the correct answer. So these two are the most popular choice. and about 20% of you think that E is the correct answer. Now, I'll definitely come to that, what is the correct answer, and I'll actually showcase my thought process as well. But let's first understand like how to solve this question in a structured fashion. So I've tried to do it in the way that I would have done it for the very first time, and I'll share the important lessons with you. And understand this, guys, the idea of solving this question is for you to understand how to not just solve this question, but how to get rid of this silly mistake excuse that you make in many such cases, and why is it and really an excuse to actually hide some of the more like the bigger problems that we are facing today. So let's start by solving this question. Let's understand. Let's read this question first. So x is a positive integer. Okay, so I get, when I read this, I will write down x is a positive integer. That means x is 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on, right? That's what I understand from it. X is a positive integer. That means x cannot be 0. Okay. Now I have a habit of writing this down in a box. Why? Because many times it has happened with me in the past that when I'm solving question, and I read, this is the constraint basically which is given to me, and I read a constraint, where I get to the main part of solving the question, I do not remember the constraint very well, or do not consider the constraint while solving the question, and I end up marking the wrong answer because of that. So I have a habit now, whenever I solve any question, whenever I see a constraint, I write it down in my notebook and I mark it in a box so that it is highlighted to me out of everything else. X is a positive integer, x is not equal to 5. Okay, so what I know is if I type x 5 6, x is definitely not equal to 5. So x can be anything like 1 2 3 4 6 7 and all, but it cannot be 5. So if you want to write it like this, you can write it like this, or you can write this down in a different text box, whatever you think, whatever you feel is better. Okay, now with this, let's read further. If x to the power 5 and there's a complex expression given less than equal to 0, how many values of x are possible? Okay, so now I understand that this is a quadratic inequality question. Now, when I learned this topic, I understood that there are 3 steps to solving this topic. Okay, now let me use the screen to actually write it down. So I'll again write down my constraints. Basically, the constraints are this: x cannot be equal to 5, x is this. Okay, now what I know is in step 1, whenever I'm solving a quadratic equation question, to use the number line method, I have to express the expression in form of factors. In form of factors. That's what I've learned. And this is something which you teach in GMATWhiz also. So I'll actually look at this expression and I see I can take a x cubed common, which basically leaves me with this kind of an equation. Basically, x minus 5 is less than equal to 0. Now, I know that x cubed, out of this x cubed, x squared is always positive. So x squared is not going to have any impact on the value of this expression. So I can only consider x out of it. This bracket, x squared minus 9x plus 14, if I middle term factorize it, it can be written as x minus 2 into x minus 7. Now, I'm an expert at it now, so I can do middle term factorization in a very quick fashion. But even if you're not able to do it in a quick fashion, it's all right. Like, you take your time, do it in multiple steps, but you'll get to the same basically thing at the end. So this is step 1 for me. I express everything in form of factors. Now, this is step 1. What is step 2? Step 2, once I have expressed it in form of factors, I need to plot the 0 points. I need to plot the 0 points. 0 points are nothing but the values of x at which this expression becomes 0. So if you look at the 0 points, and you'll get 1 0 point for each factor. So when x is equal to 0, then this entire expression will become 0, because 0 multiplied by anything is 0. So I'll place x equal to 0 over here. Now, when is this factor 0? This factor is 0 when x is equal to 2, right? So x equal to 2 is another 0 point, basically. Because at x equal to 2, this factor entire x minus 2 becomes 0, so this entire expression becomes 0. Now, for this factor, the 0 point is 5, basically. When x is equal to 5, this entire factor becomes 0. Similarly, for x minus 7, the 0 point is 7, basically. So the second step for me in solving a number line question is to plot the 0 points. Look at the values at which this expression will become 0. The third step is basically find the favorable regions. Find favorable region. Now, how do we know this? So simple thing, when you plot all the 0 points on the number line, the expression will be positive if you take any value of x which is from the rightmost region. Okay, and then it will alternate. It will become negative, then positive, then negative, and then positive again. Now, why is this so? I can explain you the concept now, but I don't have the time to do it, and that's not also the agenda. But in a very short fashion, if I have to explain it, it is positive at this range because if you take any value of x which is greater than 7, all these numbers, all these factors are going to be positive. So if everything is positive, the net result is positive. But if you take a value of x between 5 and 7, then this biggest factor, which is x minus 7, this will turn to be negative. All others will be positive. Since there is one negative and all others are positive, the entire outcome becomes negative. And a similar logic will apply. So in simple terms, if you have to solve a quadratic inequality, you can use the number line method. First step is to express in form of factors. Second step is to plot the 0 points. And then you get to know the ranges in which the expression is positive and negative. Then the third step is simple, find out the favorable region. Now, what is our favorable region? It is x less than equal to 0, which is x negative or 0. Now, where is x negative? Over here and over here. Now, it also includes 0. We also have to look at values of x for which it is 0. So if I look at this region, I know that at 0 point, the value of the expression is also 0. So from this region, I know 0, 1, and 2 are my favorable values. From this region, I know at 5 and 7, the values of this expression is going to be 0. And at x equal to 6, the value of this expression is going to be negative. Okay. Now, those of you who just did this, who just identified till this stage and felt that, okay, I have got my answer, were the ones who would have marked option E. Because there were a few people who marked option E as the correct answer. Those of you who marked it would have considered basically this case. Overall, they would have not taken into account the constraint. But if I go back to my constraints, I know that x can only take values like this. It is a positive integer, so 0 is out. And I know that x cannot be equal to 5 either. So x is not equal to 5. So the only possible values of x that exist are these 4 values, 1, 2, 6, and 7. And that's why C is the correct answer. Okay. Now, why did I take this question? I took this question because when you actually look at this particular question, the biggest thing which people miss out on are the constraints. So if you look at people who marked option E were the ones who missed out on the constraints. If you look at people who marked option B, there were some people who marked option B as the correct answer also. They did not probably look at this range, x between 0 or 2. They just took one of these ranges, like 5 to 7, and also missed out on the fact that x is not equal to 5. So in both these cases, people who marked B or E, they both missed out on the information given in the question stem. Now, why did they miss out on it? Those of you who missed out on it, let me ask you guys, it has been complete silence from your side. I'm the only one who is speaking. So what do you think is the reason why you missed out on it? Can you guys tell me that in the chat? What do you think is the reason why you guys missed out on that information? Can you guys let me know in the chat? The information was right there in front of you. The question stem clearly said that x is a positive integer and it is not equal to 5. But why did you miss out on it? Okay, still to see any comments. Tried to solve it without a number line. Okay, Arpit said he used a different method. I did not consider number 6, Henry said. Okay. Focusing on solving the question instead of reading the supporting details. Very well said, Linda. And that's one of the common mistakes. Arpit also similar mistake. Tried to solve it without a number line, as in you try to plug in values randomly and you saw some values which work in some ones which are not. It's possible that we missed out on that. But in most cases, when we are solving questions, and as a student, we know that we are struggling with the timing. What we try to do is we try to cut corners. And when we try to cut corners, we tend to miss out on the information which is given in the question step. Now, some of you might say that, okay, this is a silly mistake, but it is not a silly mistake. This is a habitual mistake. If you are not reading the question properly, if you're not noting down such information properly, you will end up repeating these mistakes. And don't give yourself an excuse by saying that, okay, this is just a silly mistake, because when you say it's a silly mistake, you're putting off the blame away from you. Okay. So please make sure that is focus a lot on the information given in the question stem and read it slowly. Give those extra 10-15 seconds on the question stem. It will save your life. Trust me, it will get you the right score on GMAT. Okay, so very, very important. Not reading information properly will lead you to missing out on certain constraints, and not just that, in many cases it also leads you to assuming things which are not given in the question step. That's also another problem which people do. So make sure that you jot down the constants and consider them while marking the final answer. I have this habit that when I mark the final answer, before that I look at the information which is given in the box. Let's say I've written x not equal to 5 or x is a positive integer. I look at that information before I mark my final answer, just to make sure that I'm not missing out on a particular case. Okay, I hope that is clear to all of you. Let me ask a quick yes, no. Just give me 1 second, guys. So quick yes, no in this poll, guys. Is this point clear to all of you? Quick yes, no here. And this is okay. Thank you so much, Henry. What about others? Okay. Great. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much. For great to see 100% yes on this. So let's get to the next question then. And for this question, you'll actually learn a very important lesson again. And this is the DS question, guys. I'm showing you the DS instruction set, the 5 option choices which are there. These are standard option choices which are there on GMAT always. Okay. So I'm gonna give you 2 minutes to solve the question again, and then I'm gonna start solving myself. So your time starts now. I'm gonna go on mute. All the best. Two minutes are over. I'm gonna give 15 seconds more for you guys to answer the question if you have not done so already. So I have 15 more seconds to answer this. 10 more seconds now. 5 seconds more. All right, I'm ending the poll now. Okay, guys, so as per your responses, let me just note down 50% of you think A is the correct answer. Then about 12% of you think C is the correct answer. And 37% of you think E is the correct answer. No takers for B and C, which basically means that all of you felt that information given in statement 2 is not sufficient. That is what you felt. But yeah, anyway, let's get started with this, solving this question. Now, just to give you an idea, guys, this particular question it's very important for you to read this question very carefully. And for every question, not just this one, by the way. So you gotta choose which question you read carefully and which one you don't. So let me start by reading this question. How many people in town X read neither the World newspaper nor the Globe newspaper? Now, whenever you're doing a DS question as opposed to a PS question, it is very, very important that you analyze the question stem completely before moving on to the statements. Because what many people do is that they don't put in enough effort on analyzing the question stem. They just move to the statements because they think, okay, they have to analyze the statements and they try to save time. But that's probably the worst mistake that you can do. So I'll not make that mistake. I'll actually go about reading the question stem properly and analyzing it. So what I know is it is asking me how many people in town X read neither the World newspaper nor the Globe newspaper. So if this is World and this is Globe, you can actually create a Venn diagram if you want to. How many people are outside of this, basically, outside of this set? Okay, outside of this set. That's what I need to understand. Okay, who don't read either of these two newspapers, basically. So let's read statement 1 now. Of the 2,500 people in town X, so this is statement 1. Of the 2,500 people in town X, so I know that there are total 2,500 people in this town. So in my Venn diagram, I know that the sum is 2,500. If I compare again, write this down again, that W and G, okay. What I know is that 1,000 people read no newspaper. So out of this 2,500, there are 1,000 people who do not read any newspaper. Now, does that mean that basically the rest 1,500 are the ones which are over here? Does that mean that? I can't say so. See, when it says 1,000 people read no newspaper, it just says that no newspaper. But how do I know that World and Globe are the only newspapers in the world? So I can't say 1,000 is the area outside of this. There is a possibility that there could be a third newspaper also, T. There could be a fourth newspaper also, F. Whatever, like there could be 10 non-newspapers, basically. But is the question asking me how many people don't read any newspaper? Not really. The question is not asking me how many people don't read any newspaper. The question is asking me very categorically that how many people are not reading these two specific newspapers, basically, right? That's what it is asking me. So what I can best infer from this sentence is, this statement is that this particular answer to the question is 1,000 plus X. Now this X could very well be 0. Okay, it could very well be 0. It is possible that there are only these two newspapers in the town, but it could be more than 0 also. There is a possibility that there are other newspapers also which people read. It's possible that there are 2 people in this particular bracket or 20 people in this particular bracket, but they are still not reading W and G. So my answer will not be 1,000 in that case. My answer will be 1,000 plus 20. Hope you are getting my point, guys. So statement 1 alone is not sufficient. So those of you who marked this information, is this correct, A as the correct answer, there were about 50% of you. In fact, this was the most popular choice. 50% of you marked A as the correct answer, thinking that this information is sufficient to answer the question. You have made a mistake. And this question is based on an official question. And if you go by the data on GMAT Club, 31% of people on this particular question fall for this trap. Now you can call it a trap. You can call it a trap, but I would not like you to call it a trap. I would rather think of it this way, that you should not be assuming things. And again, this is also a part of not reading the information properly. Was it mentioned in the question stem that the 2 newspapers are the only newspapers which are there in the town? No, it was not. Then you should not be assuming that. So A definitely is not sufficient. Statement 1 is not sufficient. Let's look at statement 2. What does it tell us? Out of the people in town X, again, town X is what we are talking about, 700 people read the Globe newspaper only. So if I draw the Globe newspaper over here again, 700 people are over here and 600 people are reading the World newspaper only. Again, this doesn't tell us A, how many newspapers are there. It doesn't tell us how many total people are there either. So this statement is definitely not sufficient to answer the question either. So individually they are not sufficient. So let me try combining the information. So if I combine the information, the first statement told me that 2,500 people are there in total. I also get to know that 1,000 people are not reading W and G for sure, and they're not reading any newspaper. But I still don't know about the rest of the people. It still accounts for, this number accounts for only 2,300 people till now. Now, where are the rest 200 people? It could be over here, all 200. If all 200 are over here, then my answer is 1,000. But it is possible that only 100 people are here and there are 100 people who read another newspaper. Then my answer will be 1,100. So my answer is still, it's still not possible to arrive at an answer even if I combine the information together. So again, if you see why someone would have gotten this question wrong, or someone would have marked A or even C. C is a bigger crime than actually marking A. The reason would be at the end of the day the same, that you assumed that there are just 2 newspapers in the town. So this is another habitual mistake which many people make. Now, what are the most common mistakes? So one category I have covered. The first category was not reading the question stem clearly. Now, this can actually be further divided into 2 buckets. Missing out on constraints, okay, missing constraints or information given in the question stem, or you end up assuming information. And now, there are other ways of assuming information also. For example, you look at a geometry diagram. It is not mentioned that this angle is 90 degree, but just because the diagram looks like a right angle triangle or a right angle, you assume that is the right angle. These are also part of assuming information. So don't assume such information. It always creates issues for you. The second common reason why people make a lot of mistakes is that they don't draw the right inferences from the question stem. That is also very, very important. And the other reason is making a lot of calculation errors. So I'll talk about these two as well. Let's solve another question to understand what can happen if you don't infer things properly. And again, guys, I'm giving you a clue before each question that what could go wrong with this question. So again, 2 minutes to solve this question and then we solve it together. Okay? So your time starts now. All right, guys, I've already given 3 minutes for this question, but still a lot of you have not answered this. So I'm giving another 30 seconds to answer this one. Okay, 20 more seconds left now. 10 more seconds. 5 more seconds and I end the poll. So put in your response if you haven't. Okay. Great. Thank you so much for participating in this poll as well. So if I note down my observations, 33% of you think B is the correct answer. 55% of you think C is the correct answer. And 11% of you think E is the correct answer. Now, if I go by GMAT Club data again on a similar question from GMAT official source, 41% people think that B is the correct answer, but more people think that C is the correct answer. 45% people think that C is the correct answer, which is in line with most of you, how you have solved it. So what I'm trying to say is that this is something which is common. Many people actually think in the same fashion. The correct answer in this case is in fact B, it is not C. But don't worry about that. I'm going to come to that. Why B is the correct answer. I'm going to show you the thought process and where you would have made a mistake. Now, before I do that, Arpit has a question, so I'll answer that for Arpit. Arpit is saying, I kind of understood in the last question that A is not right and E is the correct answer, but I always get uncomfortable selecting E because sometimes I feel that none of the statements are sufficient. I don't know why. So I can understand why you feel that, Arpit, but if you go by logic and you solve questions systematically, properly, then whatever you get is the answer. So you should be confident about that. If you're not confident, it is not just about choice E that you select or A or B or C. There will always be that doubt in your mind. So this means that when you're solving questions, you're probably either not doing it systematically or you are not aware of properly concepts. So that is impacting your confidence. So the way to approach it is to actually prepare properly, ensure that you're focusing on a systematic fashion of solving questions rather than doing in a hurried fashion, basically. And that will help you improve your confidence a bit. I hope that helps. Okay, so again, let's solve this question then. Let's solve this question. And the main thing, if you look at this question, is pre-analysis. Like I told you earlier also in the last question, whenever you see a DS question, the most important thing is to analyze the question information given in the question stem and make sure that you simplify it first. If you don't simplify the question stem, trust me, that's the biggest mistake that anyone can make. And in this question also, most of you who got this question wrong or marked C or E as the correct answer would have not done that pre-analysis, because if you don't do that pre-analysis, you don't know what you're looking for. And what we do as students is we think, okay, we have to anyway analyze statement 1 and 2, so let's start doing that. Why waste time on the question stem? And you will understand the importance of it when I solve this question. Now, just to tell you, when I was solving this question for the very first time, I could solve it in 30 seconds without putting pen to paper. Just logically, I could solve it in 30 seconds. But I'm not going to dictate the logical method directly to you. I'm going to use a algebraic method or a mathematical approach first, and then the logical approach. I'll tell you the logical approach also, but let me tell you the main or a methodical or a equation-driven method first. So let's start solving. At a certain clothing store, customers who buy 2 shirts, okay, people who buy 2 shirts pay the regular price for the first shirt, okay, and the discounted price for the second shirt, okay. So if I write down cost price, discounted price, and regular price, if shirt 1 and shirt 2, so if you are buying 2 shirts, then basically for the first shirt you are paying R1, for the second shirt you are paying D2. Let's let me fill all this out first for you. Sorry, this should be 1, my bad. Okay, so a person who is buying 2 shirts, they are paying R1 for the first shirt, which is regular price, and D2 for the second shirt, which is the discounted price. Okay, the store makes the same profit from the sale of 2 shirts. Okay, the store makes the same profit from the sale of 2 shirts that it makes on the sale of 1 shirt at the regular price. Okay, so sale of 2 shirts basically lead to the same profit as sale of 1 shirt at the regular price does. Okay, now what is the profit? Let's identify. So the profit from sale of 2 shirts will be cost of 2 shirts, revenue from 2 shirts. What we know is the revenue from 2 shirts, R1 plus D2 minus the cost of the 2 shirts. What is the cost of the 2 shirts? C1 plus C2. So this is the profit from a sale of 2 shirts. Okay. This is same as the sale of 1 shirt at regular price. Now, what is the profit from sale of 1 shirt at regular price? Selling price of 1 shirt at regular price is R1 minus C1. So these two are basically equal. This is what the question tells us. Okay. Now let's try to simplify this equation. So I'll open the brackets. This is D2, and pardon my handwriting. So if you look at this, R1 and C1 gets cancelled from both sides. Again, you can bring them on the same side and then cancel it. But what I get to see is that D2 minus C2 is equal to 0, or in simple terms, D2 is equal to C2. So this question tells me that this information tells me that these two are basically simple, same as in the shirt, the second shirt. If you're buying 2 shirts, the first shirt is sold to you at the regular price, but the second shirt is sold to you at the cost price. Now this is the same thing which you could have inferred logically also, because see, if the store is making the same profit that it's making on the sale of 1 shirt with 2 shirts, that means on the sale of the second shirt, the store is not making any profit at all. From that logic itself, without writing any of this C1, D1 and all of that, you can directly derive that the cost of the second shirt is equal to the discounted price of the second shirt. As simple as that. Okay, got my point? Now let's read further. For a customer who buys 2 shirts, what is the discounted price of the second shirt? Okay, so what they're asking me is find D2. Now those of you who would have done this analysis properly would have known that, okay, if I want to find D2, I either need C2 or D2. Any one of these values is given to me, I'll be able to get the answer. And for those who have done this, it will be just about picking the answer so easily from the statements. You'll not have to spend any more time on the statement. But if you have not done this, you will actually struggle. So let me ask a question to all of you who marked C as the correct answer, C or E as the correct answer. Did you analyze the question stem in the same way I did? Did you come to this inference that C2 and D2 are similar? Did you come to this inference before looking at the statements? Quick yes, no in this poll. Did you come to this inference before looking at the statements? That C2 is equal to T2. Did you come to this inference? Quick yes, no in this poll. Okay, so I have 100% no on this. No one did that. And see, all of it after telling you very clearly that you have to analyze the question stem in DS questions. In question 2 also I told you that. And see how much impact that it creates. You ended up marking the wrong answer. It was simple profit and loss question. And these things happen on GMAT also. If you are thinking that, okay, Piyush is giving us trick questions, this is not a trick question. This is a official GMAT question. Tweak the bit. Similar style question on official GMAT has appeared. So these are real GMAT questions, and you make mistakes on such questions. These are questions which can be done in 30-40 seconds if you do it carefully. So let's analyze this. Let's understand how to solve this. Let's go about statement 1. Statement 1 tells me the regular price of each of the 2 shirts the customer buys is $16. So it just tells us about the regular price. That is $16. Does it tell us anything about the discounted price or the cost price? Definitely no. So this statement is not sufficient. Now let's look at statement 2. The cost of the clothing store of each of the 2 shirts the customer buys is $12. So it tells us that these two is basically $12 each. This tells us C2. This tells us, in a way, then it tells us D2 also. So this statement is sufficient to answer the question, and my answer is option D. See how easy it was for you to you just had to read the information in the question stem. And it would have taken you actually lesser time. What happens is that when you are solving question, we think that, okay, if you start analyzing the information in the question stem, it might end up taking us more time. And in doing that, we don't analyze the information in question stem. And you have seen yourself, if you do not analyze the information given in the question stem, you actually end up taking more time. If you remember, for this question, I had to literally give you guys about 3.5 minutes to get the answers out. And it's such a straightforward question. I could have solved it in 30 seconds if I just focused on analyzing the question stem alone. So as I said earlier, you do not choose when to analyze the question stem and when not to. You always analyze the question stem properly in data sufficiency, and also in PS you have to do that. Okay. Now, how to understand where you're going wrong? So this is just one skill gap that I said. where you're not inferring from the information given in the question stem. But it is very important you understand other skill gaps also. In many cases, I see people doing poorly on data sufficiency because they don't consider cases in an organized fashion, and they miss out on cases. So you need to understand your skill gaps also, and that's why at GMATWhiz we provide you these details. So you can either use the GMATWhiz dashboard, which will automatically tell you where your skill gaps are, or you can maintain a error log of your own. Okay, and then take up 10 to 15 questions per quiz of the relevant difficulty level, and actually look at the solutions, identify better methods, identify whether you actually look at the solution and see whether you use the same approach and actually worked on the same skill set or not. And do this iteratively. This is an iterative process which you might have to repeat, basically. But this will help you in working on those skill gaps. What we end up doing is that, okay, our DS score is not great, our data sufficiency is not good. So we start working on data sufficiency and just practice more questions. What we need to understand is that if you don't identify why is your data sufficiency not good, which skill are you lacking? If you don't understand that, and if you don't work on that skill gap, even if you do more questions, it is not going to help you improve. So it is very important that you first understand those skill gaps. And now this is something which we actually show on the GMATWhiz dashboard. So if you are a GMATWhiz student, you can just log into your account, go to the quant section. Now the charts design has changed a bit over the past few years. It is much more like beautiful now. The charts are much more effective now. But like you will get to see the same data over there, which will show you what is your skill in different areas. So you can see that this student is actually doing poorly when it comes to considering cases. He's not able to consider cases properly. So this kind of information will basically be provided to you. It's possible that you will see that your utilized constraint score is also low. So if you are not reading the question stem properly and you're not utilizing the information in the question stem, this will also be shown up in amber color or red color as well, depending on how weak you are. Or if you're not simplifying the question stem in DS, then the simplified thing will show up on the lower side. So please make sure that you identify that and then take up that relevant type of question where you're poor and actually work on those areas. So you need to do this kind of analysis. Now, coming to the third kind of silly mistake that people make, which is calculation errors. So now this is common. Like for example, simple calculation mistakes like 2 multiplied by 3, instead of writing 6, we write as 5. Sometimes we end up selecting the wrong answer. For example, let's say the question asks for the value of x plus y. The value of x is fairly easy to identify from the question. The value of y is difficult, and you are going through a complicated process to find it. And the moment you find the value of y, you see that it is matching with one of the answers, and in the heat of the moment, you just pick up that option without realizing that you were asked x plus y, and that's a different thing altogether. So please make sure that you're careful when you're picking up the answer. Similarly, some conceptual errors we can also make. X, a to the power x plus a to the power y is a to the power x plus y. Now, the reason why all these mistakes happen, and if this is repeating, and there are multiple other errors also, like, for example, while taking x from one side of the equation to another side of the equation, you keep it as x itself instead of minus x. So the easiest way to work on this is that spend 10 seconds extra to get those 10 extra points. So whenever you're doing this calculation, you need to go slow. When you're doing 2 multiplied by 3, go slow. When you're taking x from left hand side to right hand side of the equation, go slow. Okay, because you might spend just 1 or 2 extra seconds doing that, and in the entire question you might be doing 10 such things. So you might spend 10 extra seconds on that question by doing so, but it will actually save you those 10 points, because if you get that question wrong, it's actually going to cost you a lot more than actually that 1 or 2 seconds or 10 seconds that you're going to save out of it. Understood my point? So please make sure that you're not making the calculation mistakes. Okay, especially the ones that you're aware of, right? So please don't repeat them. Now, what is the timing conundrum? Okay, many people say that, okay, I am not able to time myself correctly. I might take extra time to solve questions. What you need to understand is that you are taking extra time not because you not because that you are doing something wrong in terms of timing, but because you don't know the right method of solving the question. So let's understand this through the help of another question. So this is a question in front of you. I'm again going to give you 2 minutes to solve this question. All the best from my side. I'm going to go on mute for the next 2 minutes. Okay, guys, so 2 minutes are up for this question. I'm giving another 30 seconds because very less people have answered this till now. So your 30 seconds starts now. 20 more seconds. 10 seconds more. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and ending the poll now. Okay, guys, so how did you find this question, guys? What was it, tough, easy? How was it overall? Please let me know your thoughts in the chat. In the meantime, I just write down the responses. So 25% people think that A is the correct answer, 62% people think that C is the correct answer, 12% people think that cannot be determined is the correct answer. So most of you who felt cannot be determined probably marked it in a hurry, thinking that there is just one equation and I have to find how many values of X are possible. So it's possibly not possible to identify that. So it definitely sounds correct to many people, but it is sadly not correct. Okay, Henry says it was okay. Okay as in easy, medium. What about others? Any difficulty, any challenge that you face with this one? Now, again, if you look at this particular question, and if you don't know how to solve it properly, and this is a standard type of question, it's not like a shortcut which I'm teaching you. Okay, it's a proper methodology, a structure which is there in place. So it's not just that it will apply on just this question; it applies on a lot of questions which are on special equations. Now, what is special equation? Special equation is basically equations where you just have one, like cases when you have just one equation for two variables, and there are certain other constraints which are given to you, maybe explicit, maybe implicit, but those constraints help you to still solve for the values of those variables just with one equation. Otherwise, for two variables, you need two equations. So this is known as special equations. This is a method that works for every special equations question. Similarly, the method that I showed you, the number line method for inequalities, is the method that works for every inequality, quadratic inequality, basically. So there are specific methods that one needs to learn. Now, what is this method that I'm talking about? I'll tell you that. But if you're unaware of that method, the only way for one to solve this question would be to plug in values of x and y randomly, because x and y are positive integers. So let me ask you a question very quickly. How many of you went about solving the question by plugging numbers randomly? Like 1 for x, y for y1, assuming 1 and 1 is like this. How many of you started solving by question by plugging numbers? If you solved the question by plugging numbers, answer yes. If you solve the question using a structured approach rather than plugging numbers, answer no. So quick yes no in this poll will help. All right. I'm ending the poll now. So around 70% of you, more than 70% of you actually answered the question by plugging numbers. See how many of you are still not aware about a structured approach. Now, what is the problem with plugging numbers? Plugging numbers is a double-edged sword. Like it can work out for you well in many cases. It may not work out for you. If it doesn't work out for you, the problem that happens is that you have committed to a certain method, spent time on it, and it is very difficult for you to withdraw from that method. You would end up spending more time. Sometimes you end up spending 5 or 6 minutes also. You get to the answer, you don't get to the answer, but you have still spent 5 or 6 minutes just because you ended up committing to a certain method. So it's very important that you learn structured methods and understand where you should be plugging numbers and where you should not be plugging numbers. Now, again, we have a lot of we cover a lot of different sessions on our channel where we talk about all these things in depth. So you can definitely learn about these as well, where to plug numbers and where not to. And I'm going to give you a link of one of our playlists where you should be able to find some of these sessions, which would actually help you to basically develop this understanding. So in case you want to check out some of these sessions, you can actually check out this webinar list over here, basically. And in this, we will have a session on when to plug numbers and when not to. So this will also help you in doing so. So Lipla, what you're saying is still a structured method. I'll actually give you a better method than that as well. And just as an highlight, if anyone of you wants to have a discussion about your GMAT journey with me directly to understand how we can help you improve your GMAT score further, you can schedule a call with me using the link which I've shared on the top of the chat as well. So you can actually use that. So let me solve this question. So what I know is x and y are positive integers, and I have one equation with me. Now, whenever I have one equation and I'm asked to solve for two variables, step one should be to express one variable in form of the other. Okay, so and try to keep the smaller one on the left side. Okay, so what I know is that this is 3y. Definitely, this is a multiple of 3, because this entity is a multiple of 3 because x and y are positive integers. So this is a multiple of 3. That means this also has to be a multiple of 3. So then express this in the format of multiple of 3. So I'll write it like this. So I know this entity is a multiple of 3. This entity is also a multiple of 3. Let's club them together. 75 minus 6x. Okay, so this is a multiple of 3, and I have 1 plus x with me. So this is a multiple of 3. That means this also has to be a multiple of 3 in order for this entire expression to be a multiple of 3. Now, if I think about a value of x which is a multiple of 3, I know that x is equal to 2. X equal to 2 is value which is a multiple of 2. That will make this entire expression a multiple of 3. Now, if I plug in the value as 2, the value that I get for y that fits in with this is basically 22. Because if x is equal to 2, then this entire value is 10. 10 plus 66 is 76. 66 means 66 by 3, which is y is 22. So step 1 is to express it in the form of this one single variable so that you can identify first value of a particular number. Step 2 is to identify one set of values. So you have already identified the value of x, which is 2. Now you have to just identify the set of values. So you have to identify for which value of y it is true. Now, step 3 is simple and you're done with the question. All you have to do now is change the value of each variable by the coefficient of the other variable. Okay, I'm repeating, change the value of each variable by the coefficient of the other variable. So if you change the value of 2 by 3, the next value which is possible is 5, because obviously you cannot reduce 2 by 3, because if you reduce 2 by 3, then it won't be a positive integer anymore. We have to keep them as positive integers. So you can change the value of one variable by the coefficient of other. So I'm increasing the value. So when you increase the value of one variable, the value of the other variable should decrease by the other's coefficient. So this, since 2 is increasing by 3, 22 should reduce by 5. Okay. Now, why is that true? I'll tell you the logic also. But if you place 5 and 17 in this, it will work. Similarly, if I increase 5 further by 3 and reduce 17 further by 5, it will still work. If I continue on doing that, it will still work. If I go any further, this turns into minus. So this is not possible. So let me ignore this case. So how many values I get for x? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 values of x are possible. So those of you who marked C as the correct answer were correct. See how easy it was. How simple it was. And trust me, guys, you give me any question of this sort, I know this method, I can solve it in 40 seconds straight. I won't take more than 40 seconds to solve a question like this, if you know the method. So the reason why you take more time is primarily because you don't know the method of solving many type of questions. And if you don't know that, then obviously it will actually create issues. Then you have to stick to plugging numbers. Sometimes you plug numbers randomly, sometimes you do it in an organized fashion like Ripla said, but that's something which is very important. So Arpit, step 1 is to express the one variable in form of express the other variable in form of 1 and keep the one with the lower index on the left, basically. So the lower coefficient was 3y. I kept that on the left. So it helped me in understanding that since this is a multiple of 3, this expression has to be a multiple of 3 also. Then I took out the obvious things which are multiples of 3. This helps me in identifying one set of value of x without going about randomly picking numbers. Like instead of doing step 1, you could have just randomly plugged numbers for x in the equation and found which is one value that works. But instead of doing it randomly, step 1 and step 2 makes it systematic for me. I can actually identify one set of values. The key to solving all these questions is to identify the first set of values that works. That's all. Then all you have to do is change the coefficient of x by the the value of x by the coefficient of y, and the value of y by the coefficient of x. Now why this works is also logical. See, the thing is, if you are changing the value of x by the coefficient of y, you are changing x, you are adding 3 to x, right? That means this entire entity is getting increased by 15. Okay, now when you are subtracting 5 from the value of y, this entire entity decreases by 15. And since this is a sum, increase of 15 and the decrease of 15 keeps the final value constant at 76. What that means is, if instead of 5x plus 3y, if we had 5x minus 3y, instead of increasing one by something and decreasing the other by something, we would rather increase both or decrease both at the same time. Because if we increase both at the same time, the difference will stay constant. If we decrease both at the same time with the same value, then the difference will still remain constant. Now, as I said earlier, the session is today to not teach you this concept. This is something which we have taught in our coursework in depth. So in case you want to learn this, you can go through the coursework. Some of the files in the course you will find free. However, this topic is not covered for free, but there are some other parts of our course which are covered, like there are certain parts which are for free. If you want to enroll to the coursework, you can go to our website and upgrade your account by doing so as well. But what I'm trying to say is this method is very, very important for you to learn. If you learn the method, it is very important for you, for you to get to the answer. And that's what brings me to the slide that I was talking about earlier. If you just learn concepts and then practice questions, you will end up repeating the same mistake because you have not learned the right method of solving the question. So it is very important for you to learn a proper method of solving the question that will get you to the success that you require. Okay, now to facilitate this, GMATWhiz team has come up with the idea of concept booster, or booster is how we call it in our coursework, where what we have done is we have simply designed a simple quiz, but some tweaks to it. So what we do in that quiz is, in fact, before creating this quiz, what we do is that for every topic we have done extensive research. So for example, for prime numbers, we have done extensive research to identify what are the different ways in which prime numbers are tested on the GMAT. And if there were, let's say, 200 official questions which were testing on primes, we have categorized them into buckets, like bucket 1, bucket 2, bucket 3, bucket 4, and so on. And then what we have done is, in the concept booster, we have given you one question of each variety. You solve that question first, and right after you solve the question, you get to see a detailed solution which showcases the best method of solving that particular type of question. Now, since you have just solved this question and you're seeing the solution right away, you can actually match your line of reasoning with the solution and see whether you are using the same method or not. So it's very much like the thing that we are doing right now. I'm giving you a question to solve and then you are solving it, and then I'm showing you how to solve the question. The good thing is all the booster solutions, all the concept booster solutions in the quant part and the CR part of our course have video solutions also. So it actually feels like the same thing, that a teacher is actually showing you how to solve it. And just like right now you're learning from the solution that I have shown you, it actually, when you're going through the solution in the booster, you're actually learning certain great methods that you probably are not aware of. So you analyze the solution, you identify the gaps in your application, and then you are shown question number 2. So you do question 1, look at the solution of that, learn what is there to be improved, then go to the second type of question, apply the learning on question 2, then look at the solution, see if there is any improvement possible from this, apply that on question 3, and so on. So in this way, by the end of the booster file or the concept booster file, you have a very solid approach to solve all type of questions on GMAT, and we cover even the 750 level questions in the booster file. Okay, so each question, as I said, is handpicked and covers a different aspect. So this helps you in learning methodically. You learn the concepts and don't just jump to practicing questions. You actually learn how to solve questions as the second step. So for every topic in GMATWhiz, we have the video lessons to teach you the concepts. Then we have the application files or the booster files to teach you how to apply them. And then you finally do practice quizzes to take that to the next level. Okay. Now another mistake. Let's jump to the next mistake that people do. Why they don't get a good score is that they don't study some concepts. For example, people don't study coordinate geometry, permutation combination, or functions because they think that these are very complex topics. So what they can do is, instead of spending time on that, because these are areas which they probably won't do well on anyway, so they try to spend their energy on some other topics and skip these questions altogether. But I would recommend to not do it ever again, because this, if you're doing this, if you're just skipping some topics without preparing at all, that means you're not understanding what GMAT algorithm truly is. And I'll show you that, what I mean by this. I'll show you that. But just as an idea, always remember that even for the weakest areas or the most difficult areas for you, at least build your skill to a level where you can get the easy and medium questions correct from every single topic. Because if you don't get the easy and medium questions correct, it will actually create a lot of issues for you basically moving forward. So it is very important for you to get the easy and medium questions correct from all the topics. It's very, very important. Now, why is it important? Let's understand that from ESRs. So these are two enhanced scorecards on your screen. On the left, you see this person has scored a Quant 48. On the right, you see this person has scored a Quant 50. Okay. Now look at the pattern of mistakes. The second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter are exactly the same. The only difference is that the student has gotten 86% accuracy in the first quarter. The student has gotten 100% accuracy in the first quarter, and that has impacted that has reduced the score of the student by 2 whole points. So see how much difference the first quarter makes in your preparation, in your score basically. Now think of it this way: you don't have control over which questions will come in the first quarter. But what you definitely know is that in the first quarter, you only get easy and medium questions. You will not be getting hard questions in the first quarter. That is for sure. So if you don't have control over the first quarter and you know easy and medium questions are there, think of a scenario when you are not prepared for permutation combination at all. And you get 1 or 2 questions in the first quarter itself. You might call yourself unlucky, but I would say you are underprepared. You were underprepared because you did not know what is basically tested on GMAT, and that's where you end up making a mistake. So it's very, very important that you understand this idea that, okay, in the first quarter, since I'm going to get easy and medium questions anyway, I should be prepared to at least tackle the easy and medium questions from all the topics. And that way I will not be faltering in the first quarter. Okay, so identify your concept gaps. You can use GMATWhiz analytics for this. We show you which areas you have to work on, what are your scores in each of the areas. In fact, again, the analysis screens have changed a bit. It has improved further, but you can see in which concepts they're actually getting the easy and medium questions wrong as well. There are filters to identify that, and then work on those concepts at least to the level where you can get the easy and medium questions correct. Okay, so how do you work on your concept gaps? First, make sure that you learn the concepts properly. Also, make sure that you develop the expertise in easy and medium questions. And if your time permits, if you have more time available with you to prepare, then you can start working on the hard questions for those topics also. But at least get all the topics to a level where you can get the easy and medium questions right consistently. Okay. Now with that, let's understand how to create a plan of action. Let's summarize our discussion for today. So step 1 is to work on your concept weaknesses, basically areas in which your concept gaps lie. Get 100% accuracy in easy and medium questions. Step 2, for the other topics where you are taking extra time to solve questions, learn the right methodology to solve those questions. Try to learn the right methodology, and you can do that by going through the booster files from GMATWhiz, basically. Okay. Then group the topics into 2 buckets, basically. Areas in which your score is less than 70% means you have to work on both concepts and application. Areas in which your score is greater than 70% means you have to work on just the application part. So this is basically step 1. This is basically step 2. Okay. Step 3, after you have worked on both the things, then you work on sectional tests, try to improve your timing across difficulty levels. Then you work on all the difficulty levels. And remember, no mistakes are silly mistakes. Try to deep dive to find the root cause. Why are you getting those questions wrong? And focus on improving your skills rather than basically number of questions that you're solving. So if you're solving the entire question bank of label on GMATWhiz or GMATClub or OG, that does not give you any additional benefit. You will not be scored well just because you have completed so many material. You will be scored well when you do well on the test. So try to learn from each question that you solve and try to improve your skill. So learn where you made a mistake, apply that on the next question and move forward accordingly. Okay, so that brings me to the end of the session. If you have any questions for me, you can feel free to ask me those questions now. I'm more than happy to take up your questions. My email ID and my WhatsApp number on your screen. And if you want to schedule a call with me, I have also shared my link to schedule a call on my calendar as well with you in the chat. So you can use that link to schedule a call. I hope you guys find this session really helpful. And I've tried my best to give you the best possible tips in the shortest possible time for the quant-related score improvement that I could. But if you have any questions for me, please feel free to ask me now. Thank you so much, Ripla. I'm happy to know that you found the session helpful. Okay. Any questions, guys? I'm going to stay here for a couple of minutes more, wait for your questions. Till now, I don't see any questions. I hope all of you found the session helpful. Okay, guys, so I still don't see any question on the screen. All right, so I still don't see any question. I'm going to end this session very quickly. But before I do so, all the best from my side for your GMAT preparation. If you're a GMAT student, please make sure that you speak to your mentors, connect with your mentors, and get the best out of your preparation by taking their advice. And trust me, if you follow that advice, you'll be able to automatically see that improvement happening in your performance. Just today, I had a discussion with one of our students who improved his score from a 680 to 740 in a matter of just 1.5 to 2 months through the focused discussions with their mentors. So please make sure that you do that. Hey, what should be the accuracy for 700, 800 CR questions? Again, repeat, what should be the accuracy as high as possible? That's the answer. But it depends on basically what kind of target score target you have in your mind. And also depends on how you're doing on SC and RC as well, basically. So if you're doing very well on SC and RC, you don't have to, you have a scope for not doing so well on 700 level CR questions if you're targeting up to a verbal 40. But if you're targeting more than verbal 40, you still have to do well on all 700 level questions, basically. Okay. Thank you so much, Divya, for your comment. I'm happy to know that you found the session helpful. Okay, guys, then it was great talking to you. All the best. Have a nice weekend, whatever it is left with you today. All the best, guys. Thank you.